Welcome to the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast, the go-to place to gain financial freedom through real estate investing. Here we interview investors, mentors, and entrepreneurs who share their secrets and advice to help you build passive income. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, this is Augustino. I often talk about the importance of putting a strong team together when building your real estate business. One of the key roles that should be considered is a coach to provide guidance and reduce mistakes as you grow your company. Well, today's guest is a business advisor to many real estate investors, real estate entrepreneurs, and business leaders throughout the United States. He's helped many of his clients build companies that have crossed the $1 million mark in annual revenue, and 4 of them have grown from under $100,000 to over $1 million in revenue under his guidance. His work is regularly featured on Forbes.com and has been seen on CBS, ABC, and Fox. Additionally, he is the host of the Entrepreneurs MBA podcast, where he shares lessons from real-life entrepreneurs. With all that, I'd like to welcome Adam Kipnes to the show. Hey, Adam, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, Agostino. I appreciate it. I hope we can give some good nuggets to your listeners and really help turn some businesses to the upside.
I'm very certain we will. But before we go on, if you like what Adam has to say, you can reach him via his website at 1495group.com. And of course, if you like our content, please don't forget to leave a comment and rate the show. All right, Adam, go ahead. Tell the listeners about how you got your start.
Well, so my first entrepreneurial experience was actually when I was living in the Czech Republic. I went over there after college. I was a history and poli-sci major in a bad economy in the US, and it's tough to get a job with a history and poli-sci major in a good economy. In a bad economy, you buy a one-way ticket to Europe. And so I went over there with some friends, and we lived in an apartment in downtown Prague that we were paying $800 a month for. Now, if anyone's been to Eastern Europe, $800 a month for an apartment that if we were Czech would have been $80 a month. So we couldn't make money and live the way we were living. And I was about a week from being homeless. And I was at work. I was teaching at a Czech public school. And one of the teachers came up to me and said, hey, one of our students has an apartment in their building where they have English teachers live and teach the family in exchange for rent. I didn't have many other choices, so I said, that sounds fantastic. And my roommate and I started teaching the family, and they introduced us to another family who introduced us to another family and to another family. And next thing you know, we had 15 families that we were teaching English for, and we had to manage our schedules. We actually brought in 2 other English speakers who we met in Prague who were there at the same time to be our employees. And we built a little business. And that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. It wasn't something that I knew I would ever think of doing. I went to, a high-priced college, private school. I was going to get a job and, live the American corporate dream. But all of a sudden I had a business and I caught the bug a little bit.
Nice. You discovered entrepreneurship by mistake.
Exactly. And many of us do. And I'm sure there are some of you listening that didn't know you were going to do this, but now you're in the business. Now we got to make it better.
Excellent. So you did that for a number of years. What made you come back to the States?
I think living the expat lifestyle was wonderful, but I was still 24 years old. I was living in Europe. I was probably out drinking and staying up late more than I was focused on working, and knew I needed to start my life. So I said, I got to go back home. I spent 3 months traveling Europe after I decided that. But then I was in Paris one day and said, I'm going home. Next day, I'm sleeping on my dad's couch in Boston. And of course, asking, all right, I was in Paris yesterday. Now I'm on my dad's couch. I need to rethink some of my choices. But I was back in the States and ready to start my life, and came to Phoenix, Arizona, where I live now, and started my first business here in Phoenix, which was being a financial advisor and building my own client base.
Excellent. So you're doing a financial advisor thing. You're a CFP, I imagine, right?
I took all the classes, did all of that. And the thing that they don't teach you, and this is one of the first lessons I learned about business, is that business is rarely about the thing that you do, right? Being a financial advisor has nothing to do with the financial advice that you give. There are a lot of financial advisors that don't give good advice. There are lots that do give great advice, and they have very different businesses. Being a financial advisor, being an accountant or an engineer that runs your own business, it's about sales and marketing. If you can't do sales and marketing, you cannot have your own business and anything. And no one taught me the art of sales and marketing and the necessity of it, I thought being in business as an advisor was to give people advice. And that was the first lesson that I learned that I was very, very wrong at.
It's funny because nobody's ever said that on this show.
Oh, really?
I'm joking. Yeah, no, I'm joking. No, it seems it's a recurring theme. Yeah, it's a recurring theme. We never really learn what we need to actually be successful at school. It's they always learn it after they get out of being coached or mentored by a superior, a boss, someone who's been in the business for a longer period of time, and they kind of show you the ropes to tell you what to do, how to run, say, your small portfolio, and how to do the sales and marketing to go ahead and get more clients, right?
Right, exactly. And my financial advisor job was with a large Fortune 500 company, and you go through, roughly 3 months of training where you're learning about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and the markets, and you're learning your little sales script, your presentation script, I should say, to clients. And all of the nuts and bolts. And in real estate, this is one of the big truths and one of probably the big reasons that not everyone succeeds in real estate is they teach you, here's what a property is. Here's how you do creative financing. Here's how you wholesale a property. And all of that knowledge is wonderful, but it's not applicable without someone to talk to on the other end of the line. And it wasn't until I was 2 months in and spent a fair amount of my own money and my own time before one of the district managers in the company pulled me aside and said, take your nose out of that book. You don't need to learn any of that stuff. You have a question, you'll come to me. Go out and meet people and get clients. Or in your business, go out and look at properties. Bring it back to someone who knows and can walk you through it. Don't learn about it first and hope to do it. Get the person, and that property or that client will teach you all you need to learn about what they need. So go get the business first, which is the hardest thing to learn and the thing they don't teach you, unfortunately.
Well, and it's also because I think it might be a little scary for some people, right? To pick up the phone, to make the phone call, it's either a cold call or get in front of people. Many people they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid to kick it off.
They're afraid to kick it off, and they're afraid, what if someone says yes?
Right.
Now I've got to take care of their entire financial lives. I was 24 years old. And I have a fair amount of self-confidence, but at the time I was like, well, if they're my client, what if I screw up? What if I don't do this right? What if I don't do that right? So it's overcoming a lot in order to get on the phone and do it.
Yep. But just as you pointed out, you had, I'm not going to say a coach, but maybe it sounded like a mentor that really told you, get your nose out of that book. So maybe talk a little bit about what's the difference between a coach and a mentor.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's something people ask me all the time. As a coach, what does that mean? And mentor's a word that we hear a lot in both your business and my business. I always look at it as the mentor is the person that's done exactly what it is that you want to do. If it's you want to do multifamily real estate and you want to get into it, Agostino is a great mentor for that because he's already done it. He can tell you the specifics of that business. A coach I look at as somebody who doesn't necessarily have to be from your industry, right? Maybe they are, maybe it's someone can play both roles, but usually the mentor's been there, done that in your business and you follow their footsteps. A coach normally is someone who's a little bit more nuts and bolts. They'll get down and dirty with you on what do you do exactly right now? Give you motivation, give you accountability, punch you in the head when you need to be punched in the head, praise you when you need to be praised. So I have both in my life, and I encourage people and I encourage my clients to have a mentor because I've got the answers for what they need, usually on the mental side and the day-to-day side. The mentor is really a great person for that bigger picture and the path to follow. So that's how I differentiate them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think that there's always a need for a coach, especially on the motivation side. That I was reading an article earlier today, something along the lines of someone who, once they get to a certain level, they've reached a goal, say they acquire a property, but after they've reached that goal, I'm not going to say they get lazy, but they sort of relax just a little bit, and a coach really helps push you along. It's like, okay, great, go after the next goal now. Let's move, let's roll, It really prevents you from letting off the gas, which is what you really have to do, especially in today's economy. You really have to remain competitive and relevant.
Oh, you do. You do. I mean, everything changes by the day, essentially, in our business world, right? And so you need someone to keep you motivated, to keep you on top of it. And coaches change, right? I can be a great coach, and we may get to the point where it's time you need to go find someone to up-level you or to motivate you in a different way. If you look at sports, you could have the same team. I don't know if any Golden State Warrior fans, or even you're in Cleveland, so we'll go with the Cavs. You know, LeBron and his team had David Blatt, and they were flat. They still made the finals because LeBron always makes the finals, but that team was not a championship team. Ty Lue comes in the next year with actually a lesser team, and through motivation, through his personality, through the fact that he had championship rings of his own, he turned a team that was close. He got them over the edge. Steve Kerr did the same thing in Golden State where Mark Jackson couldn't get him there. So sometimes it's the voice, and that coach is to be that voice to make the most out of who you are.
Yep, that's right. And the coach is everything when it comes to that kind of stuff. Now, how do you as a coach, how do you help an entrepreneur really get over that line? Like maybe talk a little bit about some of the examples of someone that needed that kind of help.
Well, I think we're all in a spot, whatever that spot is. We're at the beginning, we've had success, but that spot is temporary. Everything is temporary. So what is it that we need or you need in your business? And so the first thing I always do is take a step back and figure out not only where we are and not only where you want to go, but why do you want to get there? And it's not just sort of Simon Sinek's why. It's why real estate, or in my case, why strategic planning and coaching? Why did you choose this field at this time for what is that reason? And once we identify that and take that step back, that allows us to find the springboard to the next thing. Because building success on success is not just doing more of it. It's doing it better or differently. And we need to take that breather to figure out, do we just do more of what we're doing? Is the economy right for more multifamily and they're easy to get? We just got to work harder. Or do we have to pivot and springboard in a different way? So that's the first place to start is, all right, why are we doing this right now? And where are we so we know what the next step is? Because most people candidly push forward doing what they've done before because that's what got them the success that they've had.
Yeah. We put the blinders on and they think that if they shift, then they're not being true to their goal. And really, like you said, like right now, it's all about multifamily. Tomorrow, it might be commercial. Tomorrow might be, you know what, you have to go back to single families because you're priced out of the market. It just depends on what's going on. It sounds like what a coach is going to do is really make you pause and reconsider your goal if you have to, right? Maybe it is time, like you said, to shift, to pivot.
Yeah,
right?
It's about asking the questions. And if you have someone that asks you questions, just as even a thought partner to think about it differently, maybe the answer is, yep, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. But if you don't ask the questions and you don't take time to ask the questions and get that other point of view, you're likely to continue to do what you're doing. I have a really good friend here in town. When I was doing real estate, I wholesaled, 40 properties in 2011, 12 here in Phoenix. And I flipped most of those properties to him. He did 2,200 houses in 3 years in Phoenix.
Wow.
Some he kept himself, some were rentals. I found the property, he found the buyer, we brought him together. I mean, he was killing it, him and his team, in single family. And in 2013, he went 4 months without any deals because the market changed on him. And he was so used to doing what he was doing because he admits it today, he didn't have anybody but himself and his business partner. That's what they did. They went out and they had a buyer's list. They found people to give them properties. But then all of a sudden, that market was dead in Phoenix. And it took him 4 months with no deals, a trickle of single family stuff, until he realized multifamily in Arizona was where the money was, and more importantly, where the opportunity was. And he had to figure that out on his own because he never asked the question, Am I in the right place? Is this the right thing to be doing? He didn't take that step back at any point until the market told him way too late, hey, if you want to keep this business going, you got to figure something else out.
Yep. Well, that's exactly it too, because to remain stagnant for 4 months, it hurts your overall income, number one. And number two, you're losing ground as well, because as you start ramping down, now you're at a zero state. Now you have to ramp all the way back up again. So you're going to lose all that time. So it might seem like 4 months, but actually maybe more like 6 or even 8.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have the ramp down and the ramp back up. Yeah.
You know, they were doing, I don't know, $80,000 to $120,000 a month in transactional business. It was flowing through. It was going into other things. They were using that money to fix up properties. So the money was always in motion. But then all of a sudden, there was no money coming in, but the motion on the outside was still going. And so that 4 months, I mean, roughly $400,000 to $500,000 of money that they had called their own, but it really wasn't their own because it wasn't banked.
Right.
That's the thing about all business, is whether you hire a coach or whether you have somebody in your life that will keep you honest on being a student of your niche, of your business, of your industry. A lot of us won't do it ourselves, even if we're self-starters, because we get so involved in the day-to-day.
Yep, that's right. For many of us, we start getting so laser focused, we start being more tactical and stop being more strategic. Where as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to have both. You have to.
You have to know. I mean, I'm a big strategy guy, and so thanks for teeing me up there. I'm a big strategy guy. I believe strategy tells us what the tactics are, and the tactics are what makes the actual dollars come in the door, but the strategy tells you which one to use. I had a guy on my podcast he calls it his $80 million MBA. He decided in 1999 he was going to put all college textbooks online. This was before the iPad, before the Kindle. He was just going to have it on the computer. And this was still early in the sort of internet age. And he raised $80 million of investor money. He had deals with all the different publishers, and he was laser focused. He had the money he needed. Now he just needed to get all these books online. Turns around, it's 2001. There's no more money. He spent all $80 million. The economy wasn't there yet in terms of schools willing to allow their students to do this. He missed that part of it. And there was no more money to be raised because the internet bubble had popped, and the internet thing, no one was funding it, and there was no money. And he got so into what he was doing, he missed the entire environment going around him. And $80 million was gone, and he had no business, and his lenders took it away. And so his dream never was realized. $80 million was gone, all because he didn't take a step back and monitor, what's the economy doing? Is it still good for what I'm doing? Do I need to change course? And it was too late before he was able to. And that happens all too often, whether it's someone who invested $50,000 or someone who's making $200,000 or someone with $80 million. The environment changes. If we don't pay attention and we don't know it, it can change lives overnight.
And unfortunately, investors don't forget when you lose $80 million. They tend to not like that very much.
No, they were not fans of his. I mean, and it led to, a deep depression for him and years of therapy and trying to figure stuff out. Now he's got a great business now. He teaches people how to do TED Talks. Totally separate deal, but it took him probably 10 years to really turn his life around because of that.
And so it sounds like in both cases, when we're talking about both these friends, fortunately, your first friend only lost 4 to 8 months. It cost this guy, 10 years and $80 million potentially. You can always get back more money, but you can never get back that time.
You can't get back that time. And it's not all doom and gloom. There are great success stories out there, but just be cognizant of what's going on around you. Because in the multifamily world, you can put a property under contract, and because of the time it takes and the funding and raising money, you could have a 3 to 6 month period that it takes to actually buy a property, and the neighborhood could change. The economy could change. Interest rates could change.
Yep.
Sometimes for the better, and the deal might get better and the opportunity might get better. but just stay cognizant of it. And that's what a good right-hand person, a good coach, a good thought partner, accountability partner can do for you, is to remind you of that as you get deep in the business. It's my job to help keep you on the business so you don't have to remember to do it yourself.
Yeah. And that part is huge. It's absolutely huge. It prevents you from losing all that time. And I'm sure there's points early in my career where I made mistakes when I was doing technology that if I would have had a coach, it would have prevented me from losing a lot of time on some of the projects I worked on, for sure, definitely. So maybe tell us a little bit about a success story then.
Yeah. So obviously I've had 22 clients cross $1 million in revenue. Most of my clients are, $1 to $400,000, $500,000 in revenue. I've got many clients that are bigger than that, but my sweet spot is sort of that smaller business that's really just beginning to ramp up. And 22 have crossed $1 million in revenue. 4 have gone from under 6 figures to over 7. My favorite are 2 financial consultants in San Francisco, Barry and Julie, and they were business partners, not dating, not related, just a man and a woman that decided to be business partners. They were doing $80,000 in revenue in San Francisco. That's pretty much rent and ramen. There's not a whole lot else that you get in San Francisco for 80 grand a year. And they came to me and they said, we need to build this business. We need someone like you that can just help us think through the questions and think through the process. And they knew they wanted to build their business through referrals from third parties, right? They wanted to find people in the marketplace that, for lack of a better term, knew rich people, right? And they knew once they got some of those people, they would then get referrals from their clients, and that would be a secondary growth path. But the initial growth was, how do we meet people who know people who will introduce them to us? But they also had to build a business. They also had to figure out, if we get to a certain size, do we need employees? Do we need to think about a bigger office? We need procedures in the office. We need a code of conduct, all the things that businesses need that a lot of us don't think about at the beginning. They needed all of that stuff too. So the first thing we did is we said, all right, who do you know? And we made a list of all of the people that they thought were the right type of people to refer them business. And we pared that list down to 6 people. And we said, all right, these are the 6 people that we think are the right folks they talk to the right people, they're in the right circles, they know us and trust us. And they went to those 6 people and they said, here's what we do, here's how we do it, and this is what we're looking for. Over the next 3.5 years, those 6 people referred them what turned out to be a recurring $1.2 million in revenue. Now in year 5, they're about $1.4 million, and they work 3 days a week apiece of recurring revenue, all from third parties, all from no money out of their pocket, aside from lunches and some coffees and some cocktails. They didn't spend money on marketing. They had a plan. They stayed focused on that plan. They didn't get sidetracked by the internet and doing advertising. And they didn't get sidetracked by, well, we should probably do this, or should we change and go in that direction? They stayed focused. They knew they had the right people. And 3.5 years later, they had $1 million business because they built a plan based on the right strategy and followed that plan, tweaking it along the way as changes happened. They ended up getting about 60% of that from 2 businesses that also happen to be financial consultants that referred them clients that would have been seen as competitors, but because they had a little bit different business model, they were actually collaborative and everybody won.
Nice. That's awesome. It's a great story.
Yeah. I mean, they still call me all the time. They don't need me anymore because now their feet are up on the desk and they're happy where they are. And they're like, we don't have to grow. We want to travel. But they still call me all the time and we exchange cards and emails. Just, they had the foresight to say, we know we want someone to hold us accountable, to answer our questions, to beat us up when we need to be beaten up. And they did the work. And I was just a conduit or a guide to help them along the way and ask them the right questions and, punch them when they needed it and pat them on the back when they needed that as well.
You know what? Entrepreneurs are known to obviously be self-starters. It's what we do,
Yep.
right? But yeah, it's just like I said, though, sometimes you know what? You need a kick in the butt to get moving again. It's just how it is, I guess, for some entrepreneurs, right?
It's the joy of working with entrepreneurs. I've got a guy that I work with. We've been working together for give or take 5 years. And whatever I told him to do, he would try it. He would say, all right, I'll go do it. And he would do it, and we would learn from it, and we would tweak it, and we would do it again and tweak it again. He turned his business that was literally non-existent, huge Rolodex, non-existent business, and he turned it into about $600,000 in give or take 3 years. It's grown since then. And when we talk, he talks most of the time, probably 90% of the time. But just having me on the other end of the phone, he realizes some of his ideas are really good, some are really bad. Just by saying it out loud to somebody else, he knows if it's a good idea. So sometimes for some of you out there that are like, oh, I should do Facebook ads, or I should do this, or I should get into, mobile home parks, just by talking to someone on the phone about why you're doing it and what your strategy is, you will find a lot of answers yourself. If you just think it in your head, it doesn't always translate. But once you tell other people about it, all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, I didn't think about that. Or, oh, I should consider this. And the answers start coming. It's a great relationship because he talks for 50 minutes, I talk for 10, and his business grows. It's a wonderful twosome.
Well, and I think there's another aspect too, that if you speak to someone who's on the outside, as opposed to someone inside your business, they're basically seeing the same thing you're doing and maybe subjected to the same biases and potentially with the same problems that you might have. So to get a totally objective point of view, advertising on Facebook, that's what we need to be doing. Then you might say, yeah, but have you considered that your audience doesn't even use Facebook?
Right.
Little things like that. But would you say that the bulk of your clients, they have marketing issues, or what are the primary issues that many of your clients get?
My clients have two major issues. One issue is always there is something broken in their business and they don't know what it is, right? They're not growing and they think it's marketing, or they're not growing because they don't have enough capacity, or they're not growing because they don't have the right niche, but they're not growing. That's one core issue that all of my clients have, is they're not growing. And what we working together figure out is, what is that? Typically, it's not really marketing. Sometimes you can market, sometimes you could have great business, but you just don't have the capacity to take it on. You're not out in the marketplace and you're not returning phone calls and you're not available to the market because you're so busy doing work. So sometimes it's capacity. Other times it's you've got bad messaging. So the first thing is there's something broken, and figuring out what that is key. Don't always go to marketing as the reason why you don't grow. The second is almost none of my clients have a strategic plan. They might have strategy ideas in their mind, but they've never sat down and written it out on paper and said, this is what we want to do, and here's how we're going to do it. Just putting a plan on paper, it could be a whiteboard, it could be handwritten, it could be a Word document, whatever works for you. If you know the strategy, when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to think about what it is you're doing because it's already there. You know what the initiatives are that need to be done in order for you to hit the goals that you said you want to hit. So one, there's something broken. They don't know what it is. Number two, they don't have a strategy to do it, even if they did.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I've seen this happen with some of the people that I'm more mentor than coach, but I do see that issue where they know they need to grow their business. They need to improve the marketing. They may even go so far as to actually write down some stuff And I just say stuff. Like it's just
Right.
a list of things, but that's not in itself a strategy. That's just a task list. That's all it is. It's not really an all-encompassing strategy. And I think for many people, entrepreneurs are really great at kicking things off and starting things up, but some of them, they may not have the exposure to, say, creating a marketing strategy or to create a process around something or to even understand how much capacity is currently available inside their company and how much more work can they take on to continue driving revenue. Many of these people they don't know that. It doesn't make them bad people, but I think with some coaching and some guidance, they can figure all that stuff out.
Yeah, I certainly believe so. I've seen it happen in my life. I've seen it happen in the lives of a lot of my clients. It's interesting, just the capacity and do they have what it's necessary in the business in order to make it happen, right? Let's say you have a goal, you want to have 1,000 doors by 2022. Let's just use that for your business or for the real estate folks out there, all right? Well, if you are going to have 1,000 doors, one, you need to find 10 100-unit buildings, or you need 333 unit buildings, or whatever it is. That shouldn't be happenstance. That should be strategic. All right, what do I want to do? I want big buildings. I will take more time and spend more money to find bigger buildings, so I only have 3 complexes. Or you could say, you know what? I love 10-unit buildings. I love the small ones. It's easy. People stay in small buildings for long periods of time, especially in the Midwest. Those people are never going to be homeowners. They stay in their places. I want 100 of those, right? Those are 2 very different strategies. So that's one piece of it. Another piece of it is, all right, I'm going to have to find the money for that. Perfect. All right. I know if I'm going to have 100 buildings versus 3, I need management teams in probably 4 or 5 cities. So I've got to identify the locations I'm going to do it in. And then I've got to chunk that down into, all right, what's the manpower it's going to take? Do I hire the people? Do I just use management teams? What's the strategy behind who's going to run all of this stuff? Because I have a triplex, freaking overwhelming, right? And that's 3 units. But I've got my business. I've got other things that I do. I've got a wife. I've got 2 dogs. Life's busy, right? A triplex, when they call me at 4 o'clock on Friday, I'm like, really? This is what you're calling me for? Right? Those are important things. If you have 100 of those, you have to plan for that. And how do you build that business out? Because all of those things, if you know what they are on paper, you know what you're going to do every day? You're going to do one of those 4 or 5 things that are going to feed that goal of getting 1,000 units by 2022.
Yep. Well, it's funny because it reminds me of something, I believe it's Warren Buffett that says is to plan 70 years ahead and work your way backwards, right? It sounds like the same thing when you're developing that strategy is, great, if you want 1,000 units by 2022, how many units do you have to look at? How many units do you need to put LOIs out on? How many units do you need to get financing for, and whittle it all the way down? You might find that you're going to have to look at 300 units a month easily just to possibly find 2 that may actually work and maybe close 1.
Right.
Is that going to be the type of work that's required to get it done? But just like you said, though, you have to work your way backwards and figure out from a strategic perspective what the overall goal is and work your way backwards. And I think that many people don't do that. And they just wait for stuff to fall in their laps.
Right. Or they scattershot everything.
Yeah.
And now they're looking at a single family house at 8 a.m. and they're looking at a 40-unit building at noon, and they can't work the numbers on either one because they're not focused on what it is they're trying to do. And the interesting thing is, once you get good, right, and you figure out, all right, I buy 300-unit buildings in the Midwest that are B-class properties and have this type of occupancy rate and this type of turnover, right? Now that 100 or 200 buildings or deals you have to look at in order to get 1 or 2 gets narrowed down very quickly because you don't even look at the ones that don't fit your parameters. And it's hard to say right now, if you're a new investor, what your parameters are. Agostino's done this for years, and he knows what he's looking for, right? And all of you will too, and some of you listening probably do. With my clients, if someone comes to me with a hardware store, I'm more than happy to give them advice on the strategy behind the hardware store. But longer term, that's not my niche, right? I'm not a hardware store guy. So I can only get them so far. I can get them everything they want on paper, but to implement it, they need someone with more product knowledge and experience in supply chain and in vendors and in vendor management and all those things. So once you know what you're good at and what you're looking for in real estate or in coaching or in restaurants, if you know what your customer is, and in your case, in real estate, your customer is the property or the money partner, if you know what you're looking for and you narrow it down, it becomes much easier. You don't have to look at 100, you can look at 3 because you know one's going to work because all of the other things lined up. Now it's just about the negotiation.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Now, for the people out there, who is your typical client then? Like, what sort of person is going to call you after they hear this podcast? They're going to say, you know what, I can really use Adam's help. What sort of person is that?
My typical person, I appreciate you asking that. My typical person is a service-based, typically professional, or really an individual that offers a service. And I work with a lot of real estate investors because real estate investing, believe it or not, is really a service. You're doing service to the person who you're buying the property from, and you're acting as a conduit for all of the people along the way, whether it's fix and flip or whether it's tenants. I work with a lot of realtors. I work with doctors, lawyers, financial advisors, accountants. But the smaller person that knows what it is they do, and they spend all their time learning that skill or that trade, and now they need me to help take that and businessify it, right? Take it from what I do every day and build a business around it. So those are the folks I work with, the people that know what they do extremely well and now want to scale up or kickstart what they've got into something much bigger.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Great. Now, if you had some books they had to recommend, or a book they had to recommend to an entrepreneur, what would you recommend to them to read, to pick up?
What would I recommend? Well, to an entrepreneur, I would recommend my book, which is How to Make More Money in Your Business. And you can go to freebookfromadam.com. I'll just give it to you. It's 8 steps to make money without spending any money on marketing or advertising. It's a quick, easy read. My favorite book to give away, and I've given it away, I don't know, probably 50 times, is called Connected to Goodness by a gentleman named David Meltzer, Meltzer. It is business and spirituality and source and connectedness all wrapped into one. And it is probably my favorite step-by-step book of tactics that are important, but also understanding that we're just here for things to pass through us. We're here for a short time. Things pass through us onto others, and life's about energy. So Connected to Goodness is great from business and spiritual. From a business standpoint, 3 Feet from Gold. If you've never read that, 3 Feet from Gold is stories of businesses that you've heard of that almost were never heard of because the person almost gave up, but they didn't. You know, one of my favorite stories, if we've got a quick second, because it deals with real estate.
Sure.
There was a guy, his name's Dave Leninger, in the 70s, early 70s, like 71, 72, 73, oil crisis, real estate was terrible. And 3 Feet from Gold was written by Greg Reed and Sharon Lechter. Sharon Lechter co-wrote Thinking Garage for Women and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So you've probably, many of your people have read Sharon's stuff. And so this guy, Dave Leninger, was starting a real estate business and he owed everybody money. Like he had no money coming in and he owed everybody money in the world. And people would call him and he would run over to grab the phone before his secretary could get it so she didn't know how bad things were. And he's like, just stick with me. This is going to work. Let me send you $50. I don't know when I'm going to pay you what I owe you, but let me pay something. None of his lenders foreclosed on him or called in the notes, and they all stuck with him. That business is Remax. And Remax was the first national brokerage where he was selling franchises to other brokers And that led to Coldwell Banker and Realty Executives and Century 21. And I mean, here in Phoenix, we have West USA and Realty One Group. There's tons of them now. He was the first one to do it. Without him, who knows where that industry ever comes from or goes. But he stuck to it and he never gave up. And it changed the entire face of real estate in the United States.
Oh, yeah. Perseverance is powerful.
Yeah. And 3 Feet from Gold. If you've read Think and Grow Rich, the intro to Think and Grow Rich is where the title 3 Feet from Gold came from. The story of R.U. Darby. I'm not going to tell you that one. You got to go read the first intro to Think and Grow Rich, and you'll know the story. And we're all 3 feet from gold, so don't give up.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, guys. Well, if you want to reach out to Adam, you can reach him via his company website at 1495group.com. Don't forget to check out his website. I'll include a link in the description, and I'll also include a link to all the books he mentioned here as well. Thank you for your time, man. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Hopefully it was valuable. Hopefully everyone listening got a little benefit. And any way I can support you or support your community, just let me know.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast. For more free podcasts, articles, videos, and resources, go to www.bulletproofcashflow.com.